Hey everybody. So this was my bike packing, bike touring, whatever you want to say, trip I did across the tip of the lower peninsula of Michigan this summer. It's going to be about 6 days long, and today is we're leaving out of Vanderbilt and heading east to Alpena. We got about 85 miles to cover that day, and luckily it was a Sunday morning, so roads were very clear of any cars. Basically, had all these farmland to myself, really. Um, Views were nice, kind of muted a little bit by the wildfires up in Canada blowing down, which luckily didn't really cause a whole lot of issues with the air quality, but it did make for some interesting sunrises and sunsets. So the first day was going to be mainly on a lot of country roads. There really isn't any bike infrastructure to get to Alpena from where I was starting. But the road actually worked pretty nice. This one right here is Spar Road. It was probably the best one I've had. Really enjoyed the ride. Basically followed this for a few miles and then we end up turning into gravel. And I probably had about, I don't know, 30 to 40% of the ride. This ended up being on gravel roads, which is great. It was nice, even less traffic on those than the paved ones. And we came across there's a bunch of elk viewing stations in this part of Michigan, and unfortunately there was none to be seen that day. If you really want to see them, there's a herd actually in Gaylord year round you can go view right downtown, which is kind of cool. Been there a few times. Now, I haven't ridden up here a whole lot, so I didn't really know what to expect. I tried coming up here a couple weeks earlier on my motorcycle with a friend of mine, but we pretty much got rained out the whole time. Anytime we tried to leave on the motorcycle, it just downpoured. We ended up giving up and just going hanging out in Gaylord for the day. Um, but I was pleasantly surprised. The roads weren't in bad shape. There were two little issues I had on the route that I had planned. Uh, One road that was pretty much impassable. Just it was like a unmaintained seasonal type road here. Just lots of deep sand and nothing that was fun to try and bike through. I actually rode through it or tried to walk through it for a little bit before I gave up, turned around, and rerouted. This is coming into Hillman. This is about 50 miles into the ride. I was planning to stop for lunch, and we were going to pick up the Alpena Hillman Trail at this point. And that was going to be a rail trail to take me from Hillman the last 20 odd some miles into Alpena, which was great. Sounded like a good plan. And then I pulled up and saw this. No big deal. We'll just go around the gate and see what happens. They said it was open. Kind of looked it up on the internet for a little bit, and I gave it a shot. I probably covered about 6 miles in an hour, and it was not that much fun. The one thing I do remember out of this trail was there was a ton of frogs, and they were just jumping out of my way as I would keep going. Some of it wasn't so bad, some of it was horrible. There's a section coming up that actually was like a rail trail, and it's an old snowmobile route, and in the wintertime I guess it's perfectly fine because all the vegetation's gone and the snow's on the ground and perfect for a sled. The bike on, I don't think I would do it. I would definitely probably stay away from this one. Now, I did give up after 6 miles, so I can't say what the rest of the trail looks like. But it does go all the way to Alpena, so maybe there's better sections. Maybe I'll give it a shot. That gate was not fun. There was no room to go around it. I basically had to unload the bike, throw it over, and pick up this gravel road here. This is kind of interesting. At this point, there was a National Guard was doing a thing up there this week, so there was a lot of training going on. So I had about 4 or 5 F-16 fighter jets fly overhead, which was kind of cool. Saw a couple more throughout the week, but ended up deciding to reroute and just take the main highway into Alpena, which is M32, which we saw there, which had a good shoulder. Once you get in Alpena, it's nice. There is a bypass, they call, so there's bike lanes throughout Alpena to get to pretty much wherever you want to go. This was the Lions Trail, I believe. Just a couple more miles from where I was staying for the night, which was pretty much right on Lake Huron, well, across the street from it. Nice views. The next day we left off and we're heading to Akiak Falls, and leaving the lodge, came up through a nice park, had a beach, and kind of strolled through here, taking it slow. Today was going to be a much shorter, I think it was 47 miles total. A lot of art downtown in Alpena. I kind of missed most of it, kind of just staying on the outskirts, but one day I'll probably get back there and see if I can get some more of it. This town is known for, at least for me, for scuba diving. There is a Thunder Bay Underwater Preserve here, which is kind of cool. So there's a bunch of protective shipwrecks out here in the bay in Lake Huron, which kind of is where they got the Great Lakes Maritime Heritage Trail, which is real nice, going through the town along Thunder Bay River. It goes on both sides. Like I said, there's a bunch of trails in Alpena. Pretty well kept. Lots of artwork. And they do love their shipwrecks. We head out of Alpena and basically head north a little bit and get on the Northeastern State Trail. This trail will run from Alpena all the way up to Sheboygan. A couple years ago, my dad and I did the North Central Trail, which is the other, and then there's another which is the Northwestern State Trail, which kind of is the top of Michigan trail system. We did the complete North Central a couple years ago, and it really made me want to go up and do the Northeastern and Northwestern and finish those up, so I figured why not make a couple day ride out of it. The Northeastern State Trail is the old Mackinac-Detroit rail line from the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's been converted for some time now. Lots of little small towns that used to rely on the logging they did up here, which a lot of them have little trailheads, which are nice. Some are nicer than others, but I'll usually have a bathroom in a parking lot. One of the towns, I don't think I have photos of it, Bolton, I think they said the last census have a population of 12, which is kind of crazy considering how big this place was 100 years ago. But it's a meandering trail, lots of cool little rivers, wooded sections, trails in great shape, easy to ride on, and I did not see another cyclist for probably 2 days, which was weird and nice all at the same time. This is coming up to one of the bigger towns. This was Posen. This was a Monday, and unfortunately a lot of the restaurants up here are closed during the week and pretty much open on the weekends, so lots of gas station food other than what I had brought with me. But that was my poor planning, I guess, on that part. But still a nice, very nice trail to go ride. couple shots from Posen itself. And the trails, the towns are pretty spread out. There's sometimes, it's usually, I think Posen was the bigger one, about 15 miles. This was another big stop, which is Metz. This was the location of the third largest fire in Michigan's history, and they are very much trying to keep up a memorial for it, keep it in people's minds. They probably had the nicest trailhead along the Northeastern State Trail. They had a little campground that's actually free to use. A little bit of history on the fire. Lots of wildflowers along the path, and it seems like the same 3 or 4 ones the whole time, which is, it's like one kind would pop up and then you see the next one and then another kind, and just, it was kind of interesting. One nice thing about these trails is not a whole lot of elevation up or down. It's pretty flat riding, railroad grade. Lots of farmland, farms on either side. Sometimes you come through these wooded sections, which are nice. Luckily the weather wasn't so hot this week. I think I had temps in like mid to lower 80s. This is coming up to Middleburg. I think this was the last bit of trail for the second day. From here we hop on some roads and the Akiak Falls. They had another nice big trailhead here. Water, bathrooms, parking lots, gas station nearby for supplies. And then it was a quick ride up to Akiak Falls, which was a rustic campground right in the falls. Set up camp, went down to the falls to check them out, and these are the largest falls in the lower peninsula of Michigan. The water was nice, actually. After a day of riding, it felt good to get in and I will say the one thing I forgot to bring on the trip was bug spray in this place. Campground was pretty bad with the mosquitoes, so it was pretty much go back, get in a tent, go to bed, and wake up the next morning. Tried to make a quick breakfast, wanted to get on the road pretty quick. This was going to be day 3 from Akiak Falls up to Mackinac City. About a 60-mile ride, and it was nice to have a kind of a lazy day yesterday on the bike, so today was a little bit more wanting to get going. So, make a quick breakfast, pack up, and then hit the road. This was the road out of the campground, which was not used to dodging potholes on the trail the last couple days, so it was interesting and a nice uphill climb for the morning. Coming back into Middleburg, pick up the Nest Trail and head up north again. Kind of get a look around since I was kind of in a hurry to get to camp the night before. And we're back on the Nest Trail. A lot of little road crossings, nothing really too bad. Like I said, it's pretty sparse up here. Kept seeing these yellow finches the whole trip. It was kind of fun to watch them fly around on the side of the trail. It's kind of hard to see them there, but when you don't have anything else to look to. And then this morning was a little family of turkeys that I was chasing down the trail. They couldn't make up their mind what they wanted to do till they finally flew off the trail. It's the little things that count when you're spending days by yourself. Some more rivers that we're crossing. I think that was the Little Rainy River coming up in the Onaway, or at least on the way to Onaway. Then we get to Awaken Park, which was a old wood rim company. They used to make steering wheels and bicycle wheels. They supplied most of the steering wheels for the automobile industry in the early 1900s. And were a very popular brand of wood rim for the bicycles in the same time period, even the European ones. Lots of artwork, some ruins from the actual factory, which apparently burned down in like 1926, I believe. Nice monument to what Onaway used to do for the world with their steering wheels. Now it's home of a bunch of iron sculptures, which were kind of cool to see. Going through one of the other trailhead towns, Tower, not a whole lot at that one. It's kind of interesting just to be riding it seemed like in the middle of nowhere. At this point, the only thing I've really seen was wildlife. When you get into the town of Aloha, they have a decent trailhead. There's a state park and a little camp store, some nice views of Mullet Lake, good place to stop and have lunch. They make their own donuts apparently, and those were actually really good. I was glad I think I got some fresh ones that day. This was the Sheboygan River Bridge coming into Sheboygan, which is going to be the end of the Northeastern State Trail, and you get the North Central State Trail will join in up here in a second. And this is where they come together. So that was me finishing the Northeastern State Trail. This is a section of about 15-16 miles left to go in the Mackinac City. A little bit different, a little bit more wooded, getting back to where you're running next to the highway. Real nice trailhead up here in Sheboygan. Definitely a full service one, water, repair stations. There's the Little Black River. It's kind of weird to see the weight limits for the bridges when you're on a non-motorized path. And then we're going to pick up where this is where the trail gets a little bit more wooded, and we're running parallel to US 23, which is the highway to get up the east side of Michigan, up into Mackinac City. And then there's some cutouts. You get into Michigan DOT rest areas or rest parks right on the lake, which is kind of nice to stop at. And this was going to be home for the next 2 days. TP Campground. Um, Real nice place to stay. Liked it. Right on Lake Huron. Decent view. Nice view of the bridge. Couple campsites between me and the lake, but still had a good view sitting around the campfire at night. And that was the end of the first 3 days. Then came the rest day, which was going to be spent on Mackinac Island, and then riding ahead down south on the Northwestern State Trail. So this is going to be the end of part one, and we'll pick up part two a little bit later. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you next time.